Hi, Bernard Miller here, and in this tutorial I am going to go over some techniques I use to improve color in my narrowband images, both color with regard to the object as well as star color, which is always an issue when you are processing narrowband. So I have this image here of the Elephant Trunk Nebula, and I have taken the three filters, SHO. This is the SHO palette. So sulfur is mapped to red, hydrogen to green, and O3 to blue. And as usual, when you do this, you get this nice heavy green tint, which I don't like very much. I don't like green in my astronomy photos. So I have a technique that I use to improve this color and make it, I think, a more pleasing palette, as well as improve the star colors. If you zoom in, you get these magenta stars all over the place when you do narrowband. That's very common, and so your stars don't look natural. Now you can replace them with RGB stars, but sometimes you don't have the RGB data. Um, this technique, I'll show it to you. It's possible that, again, I think the stars look good enough to the point where our RGB stars may no longer be needed. Just save you a little bit of capture time. But anyhow, this is what I do, and I did want to show over here. Um, I hope this is showing up, but this website here I got from Bob Frank, and this color palette process came from him. You can pause and go to this URL right here and read up on the process I'm about to show you. But I use this because I think it really enhances the color of narrowband images. So I have turned that process into a set of actions that I could run, but I'll go ahead and show you what the process is to do that. So here I have the the image, and it's a series of layers here that I'm going to flatten. So I'm going to go to Layer, Flatten Image, so that I have one image. I make a copy of that image, and then I go through the following selective color changes. So go to Image, Adjustments, Selective Color, and up here in Color select Green, and the cyan slider to -100, and the magenta to -25. Click OK. Then you do another one, Image, Adjustments, Selective Color, and this time select the yellows. And again, cyan -100, magenta +25. Click OK. Then you do Image, Adjustments, Selective Color, and you click on cyans. And here he has the cyan just -1 and yellow -100. Click OK. And then finally he does an Image, Adjustments, Selective Color, again cyans, and magenta -25, and yellow -100. And you can click OK. Now, as you can see, you went from this green cast, and you do have the teal, and I know some people do like the teal, so this definitely turns the teal into a much brighter blue. So you could always stop here if you wanted to, or go to the next phase, and you know, you could always use the slider here to back off on some of that, you know, maybe do some of the blue but keep some of the teal. This is where it's up to you. Different people have different tastes. There's no real right answer, but as you can see, if you go through the entire process, you do get quite a blue uh, um, tint to the what is usually teal. But I think most people would think that this is better. This image here is better than what we started with. This green teal tint is not very pleasing, and you end up with something that's again a little bit more pleasing. And you can always play with those last two adjustments or the slider here. Here you can see there's still has a lot of green. Selective color, there's that. Master opacity change. So again, you can always play around with this to see if you like it. The other thing that you can do, say that you like the reds that you get here, you can always flatten this image. So you can do layer, flatten image, and then again make another copy. Then you could do the image adjustments, selective color, and you could do the cyans, -1 and -100. Click OK. Image adjustments, selective color, cyans, magenta -25, and yellow -100. Click OK. Now here is where, again, you've got, this is where you start, and you could just say, well, that's enough, and you can play with the sliders. Maybe you don't like that, maybe you like something like that. So anyway, you just play around with this and decide what you like. I'm going to leave it right there, and then I'm going to take this slider down just a bit. So, well, let me see. Let me just take a look. There's that. Yeah, we'll call that good. Again, hopefully you get the idea that you can play around with these and then you flatten that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as to the disk, and I'm going to save it as a TIFF format, and I'm just going to get rid of this layers because I no longer have layers, so I would do that. Now this one already exists, but I'm going to go ahead and just, let me see, make this PS1A. I don't want to overwrite the one I have. I'll just call it PS1A, and click Save, and click OK. Then I'm going to come over to Filter, RC Astro, and I'm going to use the Star Exterminator on this, and I'm going to click OK and let it run, and it's going to remove the stars from this image. And while that's running, I'm going to come over to PixInsight, and I'm going to open got to go find it. IC 1396. Okay, so there we go, PS1A. That's the one I just said. I'm going to open that up. And what I do here is I make a duplicate, and I'm going to call this starless _ SHO, and I'm pretty sure I already have this, so I'm going to call it A. Just anyway, I'll show you why I name it this in a minute here, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to come over here to Process, and I'm going to bring up Star Exterminator, and I want to make sure that this Generate Star Image is unchecked, and then I'm going to run on this image to create a starless image. And I'm going to pause here and let this finish, and then I'll be back when this is done running. Okay, so this is done running, and here you have the starless version. And over here I have this process called star reduction method. Uh, and I want to bring this up and go over here and show that this YouTube site, again, you can pause and type this URL in, or you can Google this new free PixInsight star reduction methods. But anyway, this YouTube site has the link to download those process icons, and you can use them, and I'll show you how those work. So it's expecting IMG1 equals starless. Now we have it called starless SHOA, so you just go in here and underscore SHOA. And then the S is kind of like a magnitude. 0.15 is the default, and when you run this, you'll see it acts as a minimum filter. But I've found this to be really, really good. If you can see, it really keeps the stars. You don't get that minimum filter issue when you do this, and I just think it looks a lot better, and it's a way that you can go from here to here, and you keep the stars, but again, you bring out the nebula. So that's one I use. I do that first, and then I come back over here and do generate star image. I make sure this is checked, and I make sure unscreened stars is checked, and then I run that on this image. And again, I'll pause right here and be back when this is done. Okay, so we're done here, and as you can see, it created this star image. And if you zoom in here again, you can see a lot of magenta stars. So to fix this, I go to Script, Utilities, Correct Magenta Stars, and just click Execute. And that runs, and voila, you have nice blue stars where you used to have magenta stars. So if I go back, you have that magenta, that hot magenta mess right there, and that's what you come up with. Another thing that I will do is run SCNR. I don't think it's an issue with this, but occasionally you kind of still get some green tint in some of your stars with narrowband, so I'll run that. And I have this star image here, and again I will save this as a TIFF, and again it's PS1A underscore stars, and I'll save that as a TIFF. Make sure you click 16-bit unsigned integer and click OK. And then back over here with this starless image, here you can, do other steps now without the stars. You can do some sharpening, whatever you want to do to the image to enhance it without worrying about the stars. And then you can open the PS1A stars, open that, and zoom in here, and sometimes what I like to do is Control U to bring up hue and saturation, and I will increase the saturation to about 20. Some of those red stars are a little much, so I'll pull them back about 10, maybe about half of what I just did. Click OK, and then Control A and Control C to copy that. Paste that over here, Control V, and then change the blending mode to screen, and then layer, flatten image. Now when you zoom in, if you look at the stars here, they just don't look magenta. They may not look quite as good as real RGB stars, but again, I think you'll see that you get some pleasing blues and reds and oranges, and I just again think that you end up with a much better color in your stars. And you don't need necessarily to shoot some RGB frames just to get the stars if you don't want to, because again, I think these look reasonable. And so if I go back here, this is what we started with, and this is what we ended up with. And by my book, I think this is a much better image with much more pleasing colors, and the stars are reduced but still look good. And again, this is a process that I use on pretty much all of my narrowband images, certainly my SHO images. The HOO color palette, this doesn't necessarily work quite as well, but for SHO, this is what I do for almost all my images, and I hope you find this useful. Take care, and I'll see you next time.